Right, no intro. Getting into it. Magnus was wrong, and let's have a look at it. Why?
Jesus. Righto.
Gonna get started straight with controversy corner. Now,
Straight into it.
James, you may not know this, but there's like about 6 jokes that the Warhammer community reuses every 5 months. Admech love toasters, Tower waifus, I am Alfarius, Kriegsmen and their suicidal tendencies, and Magnus did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I've never heard of any of those.
Well, we're going to get straight into it. Now, for those of you that may not know, Magnus, aka Magnus the Red, aka the Crimson King, aka Magnus the Nerd, is the 15th Primarch and Primarch of the Thousand Sun Space Marine Legion. He's big, he's red, and he's got horns for tits for some reason, and we as a community do not talk about it. Corbin, do you know why Magnus has horns on his armor? Like, on his tits for some reason?
He's titillating.
No. I actually don't know the reason why. I'm actually going to look that up right now because I have no idea why.
It's because he doesn't like hugs.
No, that's fair.
Is it
Yeah,
because
that's
he's
a fair
horny?
point.
Is it because
He's horny.
he's horny? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll kick you out this table right now, James. Why does
He's horny for knowledge.
Magnus have horns?
For tits.
Horns for tits, tits for horns.
Yeah, he has horns on his breastplate.
Are they nipple piercings?
Oh, you actually, some of us weren't far off. And you're... I just Google it, why does Magnus have horns on his tits? Look at the Horus Heresy novel covers in chronological order and you'll understand that Magnus's nipple horns are clearly designed by Big E to be indicators of chaos taint, as his nipple horns grow with every move he makes towards chaos.
Of course, that guy.
that is the weirdest explanation. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard about Warhammer. And this is Warhammer.
Of course, old mate on the chair would have something to do with horny tits.
Well, he always planned to kill Magnus, so I don't know about that one.
No. I found out. He actually never planned to kill him.
No, he did. He did, and it's in the Thousand Suns book. Magnus sees his future if he hadn't broken through the warp portal, that the Emperor was going to put him on the Golden Throne and use him to death, basically warding off the demons.
I'm actually going to correct you there. I did some research, but we're going to get to that in a minute. So,
well, that's in the Thousand Suns book, though. Magnus sees the future that the Emperor had planned for him, which was on the Golden Throne, using him until he ran out of power. So what's this new information that you've discovered?
Well, you're just gonna have to stay tuned, won't you, good listener?
Contradicting information. All right, I'm interested.
Oh, chaos being contradicting. Look at
no. That's not chaos. That's when he visits the Emperor when he breaks through the portal and he sees the future that the Emperor planned out for him. The things that the Emperor shows him.
Is it though? Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so Magnus is the 15th Primarch and Primarch of the Thousand Sun Space Marine. Now, actually, no, I've got to get back to this. So, I actually have to go back to that now. So, Corbin, now that the whole flesh change thing is a thing for the Thousand Suns, does that mean that the horns are actually attached to Magnus?
Are they growing through his breastplate? They
might be. Are they no longer armor?
Was it ever armor?
Oh, it was armor. Yeah, it was clearly part of his armor, but like, is it now part of him?
I don't know, because there's a lot of bits in the Thousand Suns book where he's not wearing armor at all, so he doesn't even like his armor. It's kind of just for show. So maybe it's just him trying to look really important.
He's a goddamn exhibitionist. Anyways,
he just likes looking really pointy.
Anyways,
maybe he has a point.
Nah, he doesn't.
No, he actually doesn't, and that's why we're going to get into this. So Magnus, as you've just seen the pictures come through, James. Have you see these ones here? The ones with him with the red hair. That was him before corruption. So Magnus, out of all the 20 sons, 18 sons of the Emperor, Magnus is the most powerfully psychic. Like he's the most powerful psyker out of all of them. All of the Primarchs are psykers to a degree. Do you remember what a psyker is, James?
Yeah, aren't they they're the magic?
Yeah,
magic users.
Space wizards.
Essentially, yeah. Essentially, yeah, space wizards. They can manipulate the warp and use the warp to create like magic spells, that kind of thing, sorcery, illusions.
Bend the will of other people and that.
Yeah, warp magic was used to help create the Primarchs, so all of them are like psychically powered to a degree, like psycho powered. So, like, say for example, Corvus Corax can use his warp powers to go in and out of the shadows, and that's why he's so stealthy. Sanguinius and Conrad Kurz can see the futures, but they're both the yin yang of each other. They can see one can see the bad future and one can see the good future. And then like they all have
Some of them deny the fact that they are. Like Gilliman says that he has no psychic power, but then uses his willpower to like bend the opinions of others.
Yeah, it's kind of like thaumaturgy in D&D, how you can just like make your presence and your aura intimidating and whatever. And yeah, it's very interesting, but we'll get into that with each Primarch as we go along. But Magnus is the most powerful, and Magnus will get his own episode later on. Magnus is the most powerful Psyker, and his Legion are all like amazing Psykers as well. They're all imagine an entire army of Space Marines that are just wizards and sorcerers.
Yeah, probably closer to Warlocks because they get their power from a Dark Pact.
Yeah, but they don't realize that yet, at least for how deep they're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, one really interesting... Oh, sorry, I might be getting ahead of myself, but one really interesting part of the Thousand Suns book is the fact that they each have, like a warp entity chained to them that they use to gather power from. And then towards the end, the warp energy powers start to, like, turn against them.
Yeah, I did too. Forgot about that. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I wasn't going to get into that, but we can get into that towards the end after we go through some of these arguments.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: using Psyker powers in the world of Warhammer 40k is also very dangerous because you're using the warp to like bend reality and do magic and shit. But in so doing, you could also call upon demons from the warp. The more you use it, the more it's like a firelight going off into the warp, and everyone's like, "Ooh." These demons like, "Oh, this looks interesting."
Yeah, attracting attention from unwanted sources.
Yeah, it could be just like little fairy little demons or whatever, or it could be like something as big as one of the 4 Chaos Gods.
Yeah, they often talk about attracting warp predators with their powers, which are like shape-shifting energy forms that are given form by the imagination of whoever they're attacking.
Yeah.
So would the Psykers, being that they are pulling power from the warp, would that mean that they would be able to pull like some of the Xenos or Xeon, whatever they're called, some of those guys, like the Tyranids, by accident, or are they not connected to the warp?
Tyranids are not connected to the warp, but like they have a shadow in the warp, but we'll get into that when we get into the Tyranid episode. It can attract, like, say for example, if you're just a normal human living on a hive world and you've got latent like psycho abilities, a demon could come along and be like, oh, like, how demon stories always happen in horror movies, how demons come along and they're just like, oh, I can give you whatever you want if you just use your powers a little bit more. If you give in to me and you listen to me, we can do great things together. And then you do that, and then you end up summoning a whole host of demons and then damning your whole planet.
Yep.
Yeah, but Xenos and demons and like the Chaos Gods, they're separate entities.
Mm-hmm.
So would the Chaos Demons they would be of the warp then?
Yeah, they are completely of the warp. Most of them, if not all of them, from what I'm told, cannot live in the real world. They cannot live in real space. They can only live in the Immaterium, aka the warp. So that's why they go to these people, like these real world people, like, a guy living in a hive city who's got psycho powers, is because they can work through that individual and then manipulate the real space. Like, just like how demons try to get out of hell, for example, like in horror movies like The Conjuring. They try and possess normal humans in order to, exact their vengeance or do their will.
More powerful, warp entities can use their power to exist in the real world for a short period of time, but like the really powerful ones, like Be'lakor, things like that, they can visit but it takes a strain on their power.
And they can't do it very long. It's like a cooldown timer. So that's why they have to work through humans like Space Marines or Chaos Cults and Heretics.
Unless there's a rip.
Yeah, but then that's
a rift
created
in
by
the
yeah, but that's created by the Chaos Marines or the Heretics.
Yeah, or one of the Chaos Gods.
Yeah,
I was more thinking like if like a good psycho who is fighting for good accidentally brought like chaos demons.
That happens all the time.
It
doesn't matter what your intentions are. It can happen if you don't have a strong enough willpower.
Absolutely,
Yep. Okay.
And it killed Blake quite a few times in the Rogue Trader game by using psychic powers and accidentally summoning up a demon that attacks everybody.
I got rid of that chick too early because I was just like, I can't handle this. So, for example, in the Rogue Trader game, you have a psycho that accompanies you. If you don't have her willpower stats high enough, she can just use her warp powers like as she normally would, and then you have like a 1 in 50 chance of summoning a chaos demon that's just going to try and wipe you and your crew out. I was trying to go to sleep at like 3 in the morning, and I was like, okay, I'll finish this fight, and then I just used I think her name's Irida. She just to like buff somebody else, and then ended up summoning like a giant Zinch demon, and I'm like,
because that's what I was thinking. Like, could you be in the midst of battle and like you go to your psyker because you're losing, and then all of a sudden screw yourself even more?
Exactly. Yeah. Happens all the time. That's why psychers are not really trusted in the Imperium.
Although on the flip side, there's an Inquisitor, which are basically like the space feds, Eisenhorn, who binds a demon to him and uses that demon's power for his own gains. So they can be used either way, but it is risky business.
So risky, and it's like very dangerous. But yeah, back to why Magnus was wrong. So, Magnus, along with all the other Primarchs, were scattered at birth. But out of all of the Primarchs, Magnus was aware of his existence, if you know what I mean. Like, he was imagine a fully developed adult brain inside of a baby. He was aware of his consciousness the whole time. And, like, he remembers everything. And he was also aware of the warp and his powers. He would, like, you know how in Doctor Strange when he would astral project and like he would just like have his spirit come out of his physical body and he would just go flying around. You cut out. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know.
Yeah, astral projection. Yeah, so that's what he would do. And then the funny thing is that when the Emperor was looking for his sons on the Great Crusade and he was finding them all one by one, he was in constant psychic communion with Magnus. He was talking to Magnus pretty early on, like before he found Horus, the first one.
Yeah, he was talking to him, sharing thoughts, telling him everything, well, almost everything.
Yeah, almost everything. Because this is where we get into it. So the Emperor psychically is communing with his son Magnus, and he goes over to Magnus and is like, "Here, together we will explore the warp." Now, this is what the warp is. So the Emperor tries to explain what his powers are, what the warp is. But the thing is, and then Magnus is like, "Oh, okay, I never knew that." Straight up lied.
Yeah, Magnus already knew and had been conversing with
demons way before he even met the Emperor, and immediately lied to him.
And not just any demon. He was talking to the big man of change himself. Zinch, one of the 4 Chaos Gods.
Yeah, so even way it wasn't about that point, because what happened was that Magnus was trying to figure everything out, like mathematically like what fits in the universe, and then the Emperor came along with his 1,000 sons. Now the thing is that the 1,000 sons were going through their own sort of like problems. Because I think it was a mixture of Magnus's gene seed going wrong, because he was so psychically powered. The Space Marines of the 1,000 Suns Legion were like going through a thing called the flesh change, where their bodies were just like turning mutations, and like their bodies were just like sprouting extra limbs. Their legs were turning into tentacles, like the most eldritch horror shit you could think of.
Yeah, they were basically being possessed because of their open access to the warp powers that were being imbued to them by their gene seeds.
Yeah, it was a mixture of all that, and they were just like literally like and then it would just kill them, and then they would forget who they were, and then sometimes their friends would have to kill them, and their family members would have to watch them turn into monsters, and it was really horrible. And then when Magnus found this out, he didn't tell anybody this, didn't even tell the Emperor, but he made a deal with I think it was either Tzeentch or one of his higher beings. Was it Tzeentch or was it somebody else?
I believe it was Tzeentch himself.
Tzeentch directly, okay.
Because he states his, in the Thousand Suns book, he states his real name, which is not even Tzeentch, but he's known by many names and a few of the other names that he's linked to, linked to and known by, but I believe it is Tzeentch himself.
Okay. And Tzeentch, being the god of change and trickery, was just like, yeah. Jack Nicholson meme, yeah. Like, loving this. And made a deal with Magnus that if he gave up one of his eyes, he would stabilize the flesh change for him. So Magnus gave up one of his eyes, and so that way that his son's genes would stop mutating, and they would stop, like, exploding, essentially.
And he thought that he could do what the Emperor had done and trick and play over a great power in the warp to take that power, and then just everything would be good and there'd be no price to pay. Yeah.
And this is the arrogance of Magnus.
Now, which he got from the Emperor, straight out of the Emperor's book.
I would argue that too. And then what happened next was that Magnus then took his 1,000 sons and then helped Horus and the Emperor and all his other brothers through the Great Crusade, taking over the galaxy as their rightful place as the rulers of the galaxy.
Except he was more interested in uncovering artifacts than he was in actually helping his brothers.
Exactly, yeah. Like Russ of the Space Wolves just was like, brother, we need reinforcements. And then Magnus is over here on a desert planet like, ooh, pretty rocks. Yeah. Pretty tomb.
Hey, I found a lair of a demon. This is interesting.
He's just like, hey, look at this. Thumbs up. Let's go. And then what happened next was that there was a thing called was it the Trial of Nicaea, or what's
it was the Council of Nicaea, but it was also known as the Trial of Magnus the Red.
Yeah. So there's about most of the brothers and most of the legions assembled for this, where the Emperor was put as a judge and had to listen to what people were saying about Magnus and his sorcery and, the pros and cons of it all. And Mortarion, the Space Wolves, all the people that were anti-Psycho and absolutely detested the use of it came out of the woodworks. And then, there were some betrayals because some of the 1,000 Sons had become friends with the Space Wolves, and they were betrayed because they shared secrets with them, and then they were using it against them. And then Magnus stood up and tried to defend the usage of it, and just saying that, even though this is something that we may not understand, we do need to understand in the future.
Turns out everyone else was right, though. Mortarion was right on the money.
Here's the thing. I totally get both sides of the argument that, it's a dangerous thing, and we shouldn't be using it, or we shouldn't be using it so willy-nilly. But I also understand Magnus saying that if we don't use it, somebody else will, so we might as well try and master it now, or at least try and understand it, instead of banning it.
Yeah, because they were throwing caution to the wind. They were playing it really fast and loose.
Yeah,
and they were like, we need to understand all of this. And
I would have chosen a middle ground between the two extremes, like either banning it or using it willy-nilly. I would have preferred caution, but slowly using it.
Like how the White Scars do it.
Essentially, yeah. And the Blood Angels and all the other mob. Anyways. So then, the Edict of Nicaea, where the Emperor says, okay, we are not allowed to use psycho powers anymore. Which even I can't defend Big E against, because that is the biggest hypocritical shit I've ever heard him ever say.
Oh yeah, no, Big E's just full of shit throughout this whole story.
Imagine the biggest psycho in the galaxy just saying, yeah, nobody's allowed to use psycho powers, while simultaneously using psycho powers.
Yeah, and as declared by what the fuck is his name?
Penalty of death?
No, it starts with M. His
Malcador.
right hand, Malcador. Fucking Malcador, is like, yep, no, I agree. Malcador also being a blatant psychic user.
Just to point out as well, James, Malcador to the Emperor is like Merlin to King Arthur.
Oh, right. Okay. So is he a psycho or?
Oh, he's the big psycho. So in terms of psycho powers, I would say it goes the Emperor, Magnus, and then it goes Malcador. Or at least both of them are vying for top space. I don't know the power of Malcador 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's never really confirmed either.
No, he's shrouded in mystery, and he's a bit of a snake.
But that's why he's so powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then what happened is that Magnus got all of his 1,000 sons and went back to his home planet of Prospero, and was just like sulking and was like still using psychic powers but not telling anybody about it. Through the course of events, Magnus found out that Horus was on the verge of turning into a betrayer. And
I mean, you say
the Horus heresy.
You say course of events. He's literally told by a flying snake demon.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's just so bad when you say it like that.
Yeah.
So Magnus discovers that Horus is about to turn traitor. Magnus, Horus, who is also the Grand, War Master. He's the War Master of everything. He literally can control his brothers and all of the military around the galaxy. So Magnus, thinking this is a big thing to tell the Emperor, he's like, instead of just sending a message, I'm going to astral project myself and go tell him myself.
Oh, you're skipping a little bit though. Before he did that, he decided to do a horrible ritual that sacrificed the lives of a bunch of people that worked for the Thousand Sons to try to talk to Horus himself, which failed.
No, was it the 900 souls was for his astral projection?
Yeah, that was. But before that, he also sacrificed a whole bunch of serfs to go and try to warn Horus of...
When they were in the caves?
No, this was a separate ritual that he did before he went to...
Yeah, I know he was trying to get to trying to get to Horus because Erebus was trying to get to him.
Yeah, and he failed to convince Horus, but that's when Horus is on his deathbed on Davin. Yeah, and that was just before. So he performed a ritual that sacrificed a whole bunch of humans with some psychic power to go and talk to Horus. That failed miserably, and then he tried to go to
he tried talking to the Emperor, and he sacrificed 900 souls of serfs of the Thousand Sons, which was fucking wild to me because I was like, are we in Wordbearer's territory here or some shit? I was like, why are you doing this, Magnus? So he sacrifices these 900 souls so that way he could astral project himself across the galaxy and go warn the Emperor about this.
And it still wasn't enough power because he's standing at the gate in the warp and he's like, well, I'm gonna draw from this giant power, this big force that's the size of a mountain out in like the Empyrean.
Yeah, so look at it this way. To put this in layman's terms, James, imagine him trying to astral project himself to Earth to try and warn the Emperor. And then he gets there, but the problem is that there's like these psychic barriers that are stopping him. And he's like, I just sacrificed 900 souls to get here and I can't get through. So he takes the power of something from the warp to bust through the psychic barriers. The problem is that the Emperor didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell anybody this, but there was a reason why he told nobody to use psychic powers, is because when Magnus came bursting through this wall, this psychic barrier, like a goddamn Kool-Aid man, he ended up breaking the Emperor's webway tunnel project that he was working on, and then that ended up creating a big giant rift to the warp above Earth, billowing out demons.
I think this is the second reference to the Kool-Aid Man in as many episodes.
There will be a few. There's a lot of
and
busting through walls.
Stop. It's not gonna stop.
There's a lot of busting through walls.
There's a lot of busting through shit in this goddamn universe. Anyways, yeah. So then, and then the Emperor just looks at him all sad, and he's just like, Magnus, what did you do? What have you done? And Magnus realizes how badly he's messed up. He realized everything. And then because it was under penalty of death that anybody used psychic powers, that the Emperor sent out the Space Wolves and Lehman Russ to go bring in to bring Magnus to Earth and to face the crimes of his actions. The problem is that Horus got wind of this and then told Leman Russ, "No, change your plans. You got to kill Magnus and the Thousand Sons." And that's exactly what they do. and a big fight ensues. Prospero is literally on fire, and Magnus gifts his favorite son, Araman, a spell which ends up taking them into the warp, and they end up on the planet of sorcerers in a planet inside the warp.
All right, you've missed another thing. I got to cut in.
I know, but it's been 30 minutes.
But one of the biggest things that I think that Magnus did wrong, right? So as he's sulking in his tower, thinking about all the things he's done wrong, one of his loyal captains, Ulthazar, comes in, and in his moment of weakness, Ulthazar reads his mind and sees what he's done wrong, and Magnus is like, and Magnus is like, "You done seen too much." Fucking straight up kills his own captain and
kills
leaves
the whole Tournament of God
and leaves the bodies there for 2 weeks, locked away in his room, because what he's been doing is he's been stopping all of his psychic sons from being able to see past the world, so they don't know that the Space Wolves are coming to kill them, because he's like, "Well, I deserve this. I deserve this. We all deserve to die because of my mistake."
Yeah. And that's essentially what happened. Now, to answer your question from earlier, Corbin, to also bring you up to speed, as well, James. I nearly called you Magnus. Magnus James. That's a cool name. Magnus then sits on the planet of sorcerers, trying to piece himself back together again. But there's still one shard of himself which represents his goodness that he can't find. It's on Terra. He goes to Terra to try and, get the shard back so that way he can be completely whole. He then comes face to face with the Emperor, and the Emperor then... I'm actually going to bring this up, sorry.
When he busts into the through the Webway project and destroyed the Golden Throne, that's when he's shown by the Emperor everything he's done wrong. The Emperor shows him his plan, and his plan for Magnus was to have him sitting on the Golden Throne, basically using his energy. But you're saying that that's not right? That he wasn't going to use him to death there?
Yeah, so basically, as I'm pulling up this information now, the Emperor and Magnus are face-to-face. This is during the Siege of Terror as well, by the way, when Horus is trying to fuck shit up and get close to the Emperor. The Emperor opens his eyes and then shows Magnus a future where all the Primarchs never turned against the Imperium, and the last world in the galaxy was then conquered in the name of mankind. In this future, Magnus sat upon the Golden Throne, powering the Webway, but his soul was in perpetual bliss as it drifted in the Immaterium alongside the Emperor to discover the limits of cosmic knowledge.
That doesn't mean that he wasn't going to use him to death. That's just the Emperor showing him, "Oh, look at this beautiful future I planned." When he had already seen that, the Emperor was planning to use him, all of his energy on the throne.
But then again, that's also what Magnus wanted, to discover the cosmic knowledge of the universe and the warp. So I would say that's a kind of win-win, perfect universe for them both. But the problem,
I think it's still some bullshit.
I know you think
it's some biggie bullshit.
I know you think that, you filthy heretic, but I'm still on the side of the Emperor. But here's the thing: this is the caveat. The Emperor stated that this future could still happen if Magnus just came back to the Loyalist side, and then they could take out Horus and all the others. But the problem is that the price was too steep. The Emperor declared that the Thousand Sons were damned due to the rampant flesh change that happened. Now, they could not follow Magnus back into the Emperor's embrace, and they would need to be purged. Magnus said no.
Because the Emperor's always like, death must be... Death must come. He's never willing to forgive anything.
And why would he? Anyways, yeah, so that's essentially the rundown of what Magnus has sort of done. We're not going to get into too much more because otherwise there's no point doing a Magnus episode.
Yeah, there's a lot more to Magnus than the things he's done wrong, so we'll definitely cover a Magnus in an episode, but...
Absolutely, definitely, because a lot could change between now and then.
And these are some main points of all of the things that Magnus did wrong. He did so much wrong. He made bad decision after bad decision.
Yeah, but at the moment, James, what's your overall opinion of Magnus? Is what we've said so far.
My overall opinion is that he's horny for the chaos, and
if that's all you've taken away from this, I've wasted my time.
No, he is horny for the chaos powers. Absolutely,
you're not wrong.
And I'm still yet to hear anything too overly bad that he did, but that could just be my chaos bias.
Yeah, that is your chaos bias coming.
And that he loves a bit of horn.
It's just me sighing every episode is going to be a thing now.
It's
going to be it's going to be part of the future bingo card that we make.
Hey, when you decided to make a pub that was to convert heretics, you knew this was going to be a long shot.
Yep, definitely long shot. Anyways, so yeah, basically the biggest things that he did wrong is that the Emperor said no psychic powers. Magnus said okay, and then still did psychic powers, and now because of him disregarding the Emperor's word, there's now a big giant warp rift above Earth that could spill out demons if nobody's sitting on the Golden Throne.
I mean, he also made the same mistake that Big E did, where he tried to make a deal with the warp powers, the warp gods, and then go back on his word.
I would say Magnus did make that mistake, thinking that he was more powerful than the Chaos Gods, and he was smarter and more powerful, which he was not.
Yeah, because he's super cocky, and the Emperor also is not bigger or more powerful than the warp gods, and is still paying that price.
During the Horus Heresy, I would say no. He's definitely not as powerful as the Chaos Gods.
I would argue he's still not.
I would argue in 40k he could be. But then again, we also don't understand how far his reach is in the warp.
I mean, he has to be pretty cocky to have those big horns on his tits. So
now I just pictured the Emperor with big horns on his tits. I didn't want that image in my head.
Oh no, I meant Magnus.
I know you did.
But dead guy in the chair. Maybe he had some horny tits too.
I mean, he lived for a long time. He probably did the Zeus thing and bedded quite a few women. He likes to have his way with everyone.
As he should. Anyways. Now, that's the biggest points that Magnus did a lot wrong. Everybody seems to sympathize, they understand where Magnus came from, because the Emperor didn't tell any of his sons, they knew of the warp, but they didn't know what was in the warp. They didn't know about the 4 Chaos Gods. They didn't know about the demons trying to make deals and all that crap. So that actually left a lot of his sons open to corruption.
And he taught Magnus how to use his powers without warning him too much about the downside. Also, you can't tell me that the Emperor didn't have the power to help fix the flesh change and still just did nothing.
I personally can't argue that, because I genuinely don't know. I don't know if his powers were diminished while he's on the Golden Throne, and because of that he can't get up, or he can't do anything outside of holding back the rift.
I'm talking when he first brought the sons to Magnus and he was in the Great Crusade.
I would argue that he couldn't. I would argue that he couldn't, because that's why Magnus went to the Chaos Gods.
I don't know, because a lot of it is up in the air of what the Emperor actually knows and what he's foreseen.
What he's actually capable of. He's clearly more powerful than Magnus, but I don't think he was more powerful than Tzeentch in terms of reversing the flesh change and holding it back.
No, he probably wasn't more powerful than Tzeentch, but also in the Horus books he has already seen, and the Horus Rising. No, it's not Horus Rising. It's one of the books after that. But he has seen
Galaxy in Flames.
Galaxy in Flames. He has seen the future where his sons turn against him.
No, it's False Gods. That's the second one.
False Gods, yeah, and he's already seen the future of all of that. So how much of this does he already know is going to happen?
That's the question. But anyways, so that's the thing, is that I posted this into a bunch of Warhammer groups to try and see if anybody could genuinely defend it, and nobody did. Nobody can defend this point of view, because it's just a meme. And I think it came out about the same time as Garrosh did nothing wrong when Warhammer came out. Like, not Warhammer, World of Warcraft.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
that he's a favorite for a lot of people that want to defend him because honestly, his warp powers are really cool, and the Thousand
Yeah.
Suns book actually really shows off his power. Like he goes hand to hand with Russ and manages to do pretty well in a fight.
Hmm.
And he's just shooting fire and lightning and raining down blood. All of these things sound like, perfectly holy things to do, don't they?
Yeah, there are some good points that people made that I'm going to list out because I really enjoy some of these point of views. Ronald here says he made Magnus a Giga Psyker, then told everybody Psykers weren't cool anymore, and then hid his grand plan from the one Primarch who should have known about it.
Yeah, totally valid. The Emperor...
Totally valid. But here's the thing. It was the arrogance of Magnus thinking that he should know what's going on, or should know that everything is going on.
And his arrogance thinking that he's stronger and better than everyone else.
Hmm.
Like, he hid things from the Emperor because he was like, I know more than the Emperor. And, like, when he first went to tell him about the discovery on that first planet, he's like, oh, the Emperor already knew. I thought I knew something my father didn't. He's just fully arrogant.
Before reading the Thousand Suns book in the Horus Heresy series, if I had to have one word that would describe Magnus, it would have been like inquisitive or magic or something like that. But now, after reading A Thousand Suns, the one word I would describe Magnus is arrogant.
Oh, absolutely.
Just every word is just dripping with patronizing his sons that don't know anything, and talking with condescension about everything. Not condensation,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And we have to also mention just quickly, in the Council of Nicaea, he gets so mad, he looks at Ahriman, his right-hand man, and Ahriman passes out from the anger and what he sees in Magnus, where he actually notices the pact that Magnus made with Tzeentch, and then when he talks to Magnus about it, be like, what is this? What happened? Magnus is like, you will forget what you saw, and basically tries to wipe his fucking memory.
Tyler here does make a good point. He did exactly what the Emperor designed him to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also hard to defend as well.
The Emperor did more wrong than Magnus, but Magnus made so many bad choices.
I would argue against that because I would say the Emperor made a blanket rule for everybody with the expectation that they should follow it, and Magnus was the only one with the arrogance to not listen.
He wasn't the only one.
Who else didn't listen to the Nicaea Edict?
Well, the White Scars continued. The Blood Angels continued.
I don't know anything about the Blood Angels, so I can't defend that, but I highly doubt it. The White Scars only did it after the heresy happened, after they were betrayed by the Wordbearers.
No, they continued
in the Scars book.
They continued it the whole time.
Did they do it in the Scars book? I can't remember.
Yep. They had a rampant amount of Stormcallers, as they call them, that did it. The Space Wolves, even though they deny that it's psychic powers, still continued using Rune Priests the whole way through the heresy.
Yeah, but Rune Priests are not psychers because they channel the power of Fenris.
Yeah, and the Blood Angels continued, even though they were like, oh, this isn't psychic powers, same as the others, they were still using their psychic powers. Like, the Raven Guard still used their psychic powers to, cloak themselves the way that they learned. All of these people were still using them.
Actually, they didn't. It wasn't, even the Corvus's Guard didn't. It wasn't until after Isfahan did they do away with the Edict of Nicaea.
Okay. Well, maybe they didn't, but yeah, the Space Wolves did. The White Scars continued using theirs. It wasn't that... they discontinued the Librarium, which is their, official regimen of them, but they still maintained Stormcallers and the White Scars, and they still maintained Rune Priests and the Space Wolves and stuff. It's just that the Thousand Suns were the only ones that were, sanctioned for it. And it's because Big E got upset that his project that he told nobody about got destroyed by accident. by some toddler playing with things that he didn't really understand.
So I'm reading another argument from somebody with a Russian name that I can't pronounce because don't understand Russian. Emperor made Primarchs and gave them certain abilities. What Magnus got was knowledge and ability to control the warp, and he openly practiced that. The Emperor, along with other Primarchs, banned use of warp power and literally denied the core purpose of the Thousand Suns without so much as a consideration and heads up. Publicly shamed him in front of all the others, and still Magnus tried to stop Horus from falling to the warp and chaos, and later to notify the Emperor. If we adopt the notion of do nothing, it would be reasonable to say that all the legions, other than the Iron Hands, Salamanders, and Raven Guard, should have done nothing after the event. Okay, I don't know. I understand that argument he's trying to make, but I do understand that Magnus was created for that reason. He was created to be the one that sits on the Golden Throne and to power the Webway, and then also fulfill his quest for knowledge. But at the same time, that doesn't excuse what his actions.
No, and he had already made mistakes before that too. Like, yeah, I don't know. He made a lot of mistakes. A lot of them unknowing, but still, his arrogance got him in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And
there's
even,
another one here. Sorry.
Even things like killing Ulfazar for finding out what he was doing. It's just petty rage. It's just like he threw a tantrum. The fact that he did something wrong and he was like, "Oh, I should have known better. I should have known better." Oh,
it was a bit sociopathic as well. Just like, "Oh, you're now a problem. Clack, you're no longer a problem."
Yeah, but his sons that he loves so much or claims to, there's more of a greed for power than there is actual love for some of his sons.
I do like this though. Neil says, because Big E failing to tell his sons about the dangers of chaos has to hold some of the blame, and a big chunk of it at that. And then Liam says, maybe, hey, don't mess with magic. Trust me, I'll let you all know why soon was enough. And then Todd underneath that said, clearly not.
Trust me, bro. Trust me.
Yeah. Source, trust me, bro.
Yeah, don't do it. I'll tell you why later. It's pretty direct.
Yeah, because there's even a moment on Ulanor when the Emperor hands over the crown, or not the crown, but the responsibility to Horus, where Magnus goes up and talks to him and it's like, "Oh, what's this project? What are you doing? Like, fill me in. Let me know what's going on and if I can help you." And the Emperor's like, "Nah, don't worry about it."
But here's the thing. Mind your own business, Magnus.
I mean, it's literally the Emperor's plan to sit him on the damn thing, and he's like, "Nah, don't worry about it, I'm still building it. I'm just building my own little thing here, and you just go and don't do everything that I've been teaching you to do."
I totally think that, because what happened after Ulanor and after naming Horus the War Master, I keep calling Grandmaster. After naming Horus War Master, he took Rogel Dawn and the Imperial Fist back to Terra, and that was to build up, the defenses of Terra for whatever reason. I think we know that, Big E saw something big coming.
He already knew what was coming, yeah.
He should have taken Magnus with him.
Yeah.
To help him with the project, and that would have avoided the whole bullshit.
And he probably knew that it wouldn't.
That's where we get into the territory of how much did he actually know and how much was he aware that he could change.
Well, he was already prepping for Horus's betrayal, so...
But then again, was he? Is that what he was preparing for? Or did he just know that something big was on the horizon?
Well, he wouldn't have had to defend, bolster up Terra for any other reason, because the throne was supposed to protect them.
Well, again, we don't know. But
no, you're just being obtuse to try to make the Emperor sound like less of a dick.
And you're being direct because you want him to be a dick.
No, it's the facts. These are the facts.
Is it a fact that we know why he was building up Terra?
You can absolutely guess.
Guess, yeah, exactly. Guess. There you go. Get your shenanigans.
It doesn't
out of here.
state.
Thank you very much. Get your heresy out of here. I'm not listening to it.
All right, Big E sim.
Big E hater. Sorry, Big E's gonna go put his glasses on to block out the haters.
He doesn't need them. He's already dead.
Yeah. So he doesn't see you as a problem.
No, he's just blissfully ignorant of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. After Dark Imperium, I wouldn't say that.
but why help? Why help his sons? Why fill them in? Why give them any information?
I
Let
can't
them
even defend that. I'm not gonna even try.
let them flounder for themselves, and half them will turn to chaos, and that's okay.
So, James, have we sufficiently filled you in on why Magnus did a lot wrong?
Yeah, you still haven't told me too much that he did wrong. I still don't see anything that he did was that bad. I mean, his dad essentially lied to him, told him that he was going to be, you know, on the chair and just to trust him, and went out and did his own thing anyway. And I mean, he did bring the chaos, to his dad. So maybe he did some things, but I don't know. I think Big E's just as bad as Magnus anyway.
Oh no, I'm losing him.
This Emperor turned from Magnus did everything wrong to the Emperor did everything wrong, and I'm loving it. I'm here for it.
I can hell. Alright. I'm sorry, Emperor. I've lost another one. I'll keep trying though.
Yeah, you
We'll keep
keep
trying
defending that sociopathic monster.
Which one? You Emperor or Mortarion?
Mortarion has a lot of empathy.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you say. Anyways, we're going to be talking about that next episode, because next episode we're going to be talking about Chaos Space Marines, aren't we, Corbin?
Yeah, we'll be covering just a broad spectrum of the Chaos Space Marines before we delve further into all of them, just to point out why they're cooler than regular Space Marines. And maybe
sure. Yeah, why not? Yeah, cool.
Well, I mean, they're at least more powerful.
Yeah, say whatever you want, Stinky.
Sounds like someone's a bit butthurt from not being able to convert.
Yeah, he's very butthurt. It's like, oh, I pointed out all the facts, and he saw that the Emperor was an asshole. Oh no!
I'm a chaplain. I don't get butthurt. I get angry.
Chaplains are always butthurt from sitting on their big sticks.
When it comes to Chaos Space Marines, what can we talk about next week? Because when you talk about Chaos Space Marines, you start off with Space Marines, but we've already done that. So are you going to go into a little bit about, the different types of corruptions and all that kind of thing, or what are you going to get into, Corbin?
Yeah, well, we'll probably talk about just the differentiating factors. Maybe touch base on the 4 Chaos Gods and the 4 legions that are actively assigned to them, and then the Chaos Undivided legions.
Yeah, and what that means and what that entails.
Yeah, some of the cool Chaos vehicles and monsters, and all of the cool demons a little bit. We'll go through all the cool things that they do.
Yeah, and I want to discuss that as well next time as well, because with the new codex for the Space Marines come out, how you can do the task force. Maybe when the new codex for the Chaos Space Marines comes out, it'll be like raiding parties or something like that instead. But we'll get into that next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this has been good. Like and subscribe, or don't. No, I'm not your mother. See you next time.
The Emperor did everything wrong.
Shut up. Bye.